The music pounded like it was trying to shake the bones out of my body, but all I could think about was how badly I wanted to disappear. People laughed, glasses clinked, and neon lights washed over the house like it was drowning in its own heartbeat. And yet somehow, in the middle of that chaos, the loudest thing was the silence around me. Someone shoved my shoulder as they passed. Look, the bookworm actually showed up. Guess he finally crawled out of the library. Laughter erupted around me like it was rehearsed. I kept my eyes on the book in my hand because it was easier than looking at them. I had brought it as a joke to myself, like a safety net. I never expected it to become the reason they circled me like sharks scenting blood. The night smelled of alcohol and cheap cologne and the kind of cruelty people reserve for those they decide are safe targets. I tasted humiliation, thick, bitter. I should have left. I should have walked out the moment I saw the smirk on Blake's face as he spotted me. But pride kept my feet planted. Or maybe it was the stubborn part of me that still wanted to believe I could fit in. Be normal. Pretend for one night that I wasn't the quiet guy always caught in the background. Then I saw him. Bennett. He leaned against the doorway with a drink in his hand, tall and effortlessly magnetic, the kind of guy who made silence stretch when he entered a room. Everyone gravitated toward him without him even trying. If I was the shadow, he was the sun people wanted to orbit. But right then, his eyes weren't on the crowd. They were on me. He wasn't laughing. That shocked me more than the mockery. Before I could process it, Blake snatched the book from my hands and waved it above his head like a trophy. This guy brings a novel to a party. Seriously, who does that? More laughter. A chant started. Read for us, Professor. Heat rushed to my face. My chest tightened. The music suddenly felt too loud, too hot, too suffocating. Give it back, I said quietly. Or what? Blake taunted. Gonna recite poetry at me. I heard my own heartbeat hammering in my ears. Maybe it was the weeks of keeping my head down. Maybe it was the way they always pushed, always prodded, always assumed I would fold. But something inside me snapped like a thread pulled too tight. Or, I said, stepping forward, you could stop acting like a coward who only feels big when he's making someone else small. The room fell silent. I wasn't supposed to fight back. That wasn't my role. I was Emerson, the quiet one, the good one, the harmless one. Not this person whose voice could cut through noise like a blade. Blake's eyes narrowed. What did you say? I felt something boiling under my skin. Fear, anger, freedom. You heard me. Someone gasped. Someone whispered, oh damn. And then someone else spoke. Enough. Bennett's voice sliced through the tension. He pushed off the doorway and stepped in. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. Authority radiated from him naturally, like it was stitched into his bones. Give him his book, Blake, Bennett said. Why do you care? Blake sneered. He's nobody. Bennett's gaze hardened. A quiet, lethal kind of anger. Give back. For a moment I thought Blake would push it further, but something in Bennett's expression made him hesitate. Blake threw the book at my chest instead of handing it to me properly, but I caught it. There. Happy, he stalked off, muttering curses. The crowd dispersed, disappointment on their faces now that the spectacle was over. But something else lingered instead, a different kind of attention. One I wasn't used to. Are you okay? Bennett asked. He stood so close, the scent of cedar and something warm wrapped around me. His voice was softer now, like he had turned down the volume of the world just for me. I nodded, though I wasn't sure it was true. My hands were shaking. My throat felt tight. Thank you, I managed to say. He looked at the book pressed against my chest. You didn't deserve that. No one had ever said that to me before. Maybe some people really do bring books to parties, he added with a small smile. I think that's kind of cool. For a second I forgot how to breathe. Someone called his name across the room. He didn't look away from me, not yet. You want to stay close for a bit, he asked gently. Just until you feel better. I don't mind. Normally, I would have refused. I was good at stepping aside, blending out, apologizing for taking up space. But something in his offer felt like a lifeline. I nodded again. He smiled a little wider. Come on. It's quieter on the balcony. He led me through the crowd without touching me, but somehow I could feel his presence like a shield between me and the rest of the room. When the cool night air hit my face, I finally exhaled. The city glittered below like 1,000 tiny stories waiting to be told. He offered me his drink, then seemed to think better of it and set it aside. You know, he said, leaning on the railing, I'm kinda glad you spoke up back there. I let out a weak laugh. I didn't exactly plan it. Most people don't, he said, but it takes guts to do what you did. More than any of them could manage. The words settled in my chest like something warm and steady. I'm not usually like that, I admitted. I don't know what came over me. Maybe you just got tired of being underestimated. I blinked. Is that what you see? He turned his head toward me. His eyes were steady, clear. Yeah. I noticed you before tonight, you know. You always look like you're carrying whole universes in your head. No one had ever described me like that. You noticed me. How could I not, he said quietly. My heart stuttered. I gripped the book so I wouldn't grip him instead. Then he nodded toward it. What were you reading anyway? I laughed self-consciously. It's embarrassing. Try me. I opened the book and flipped it around so he could see the cover. It's a romance. His eyebrows lifted. Really? Don't judge me, I said with a grin that felt too big for my face. He chuckled, warm, smooth, beautiful. I'm not judging, just surprised. Does it have a good ending? I'm not there yet, but I hope so. He looked at me for a long second, his gaze drifting between my eyes like he was searching for something familiar, something that made him softer by the moment. Me too, he said quietly. The city noise drifted up from below like a hum. For a while we just stood there, our shoulders almost touching, not speaking but not needing to. His presence felt like a blanket I didn't know I had been cold without. After a while he asked, "Why did you come here tonight if you don't like these parties?" I shrugged. I kept getting invited, and I thought maybe it'd be different this time. Maybe I'd stop being the weird outsider if I just showed up. He shook his head gently. You're not weird. They're shallow. There's a difference. I absorbed that with a quiet ache. What about you? I asked. You always look like you fit everywhere. He laughed, but there was no humor in it. I don't. I just pretend better than most. That surprised me more than anything else he'd said. You pretend? I asked. Why? Because people expect certain things from you when you look a certain way, he answered. They think you're confident, popular, untouchable. If you break character, they panic. I stared at him, stunned. I didn't think someone like you could ever feel that way. He tilted his head. Someone like me. I felt my face heat. You know, cool, self-assured, like you belong everywhere. He gave me a slow, thoughtful smile. Maybe I want to belong somewhere specific, not everywhere. My stomach fluttered. Where? He held my gaze. I haven't figured it out yet, he said softly, but I think I'm closer than I've ever been. The air between us hummed so strongly I felt it in my spine. I opened my mouth to speak, but the balcony door swung open. Someone stumbled out laughing and yelling Bennett's name. His jaw tightened. Sorry, he said to me. They'll be back. I nodded and watched him disappear into the noise again, leaving a Bennett-shaped silence behind him. I leaned against the railing, my heart still thudding like it didn't know what to do with itself. The book in my hands felt suddenly heavier, like it wasn't just paper anymore but a symbol, a reminder of who I was and who I might be becoming. I was still replaying what he had said when someone else pushed onto the balcony. Blake. Of course. He slammed the door behind him and stalked toward me with a sneer twisting his lips. You think you're tough now because Bennett stepped in? You think anyone here actually cares about you? My hands tightened around the railing. I don't want trouble, I said quietly. Too bad. He stepped closer. If you think you can embarrass me like that and walk away. I cut him off. I didn't embarrass you. You did that yourself. His face went red. You think you're something special. I swallowed hard. No, I just think I'm done letting you treat me like I'm nothing. His fist clenched. Great, I thought. I was going to get punched at a party because I finally opened my mouth. But before he could raise his hand, the balcony door opened again and Bennett stepped out like a storm. That's enough. Blake froze. Bennett didn't shout. He didn't need to. His presence alone pulled the air tight around us. Touch him, Bennett said in a low voice, and you'll regret it. Blake's bravado cracked. Man, he's not worth. Go. Bennett's tone was sharp steel. Blake stormed back inside. When the door shut, Bennett exhaled hard, then turned to me. Did he hurt you? No, I said softly. I'm okay. Thanks to you. He rubbed the back of his neck like he was trying to chase off the adrenaline. Sorry, I shouldn't have left you alone. You don't have to babysit me, I said carefully. His eyes lifted to mine, full of something raw and sincere. I'm not babysitting you, Emerson. I'm choosing to be here. The world went quiet. And somewhere deep inside me, something shifted. And somewhere deep inside me, something shifted. It wasn't loud, not like the music pounding inside the house. It wasn't sharp like Blake's cruelty or electric like the moment Bennett stepped between us. It was softer, quieter, like the first ripple in still water. But I felt it all the same. A stirring of something I hadn't allowed myself to imagine before. Something warm, something dangerous, something alive. Bennett leaned against the railing beside me, his breath still slightly uneven. He looked out over the city lights as if grounding himself, but his eyes flicked toward me every few seconds, checking, confirming, making sure I was still standing, still breathing, still me. You didn't have to do that, I said softly. He shook his head. I did. No, I repeated. You chose to, and that matters. He turned fully toward me then, the glow from the balcony lights falling across his face. It softened the strong lines of his jaw, highlighted the warmth in his eyes. He looked different in that moment, not the confident, admired guy everyone inside adored, but someone real, someone who felt things deeply even if he hid them from the world. I don't like seeing people get hurt, he said quietly. I opened my mouth, then closed it, choosing my words carefully. You don't like seeing me get hurt. The faintest flush crept up his neck. You noticed that. It felt like my heart tripped over itself. I notice you a lot more than you think. His breath caught ever so slightly, like my words had reached a part of him no one else did. Before he could respond, a burst of laughter erupted from inside, spilling onto the balcony like an unwelcome reminder of the world waiting beyond the door. He let out a slow exhale. I hate these parties, he admitted. I blinked. You hate them? Yeah. I come because it's expected. People assume I like loud music and shallow conversations and being the center of attention. They think it's who I am. Is it not? He gave a small, tired smile. Not even close. I tried to picture Bennett anywhere else. A quiet room, a bookstore, a coffee shop, somewhere gentle, somewhere without expectations crushing him from all sides. and somehow it made perfect sense. "Where would you rather be?" I asked. He looked down at his hands. They were strong, steady, but the way he flexed his fingers told me he was restless. Nervous, even. "Somewhere peaceful," he said softly. "Somewhere I don't have to pretend. Somewhere I can be myself without worrying about disappointing everyone." He lifted his gaze, and when his eyes met mine, the world narrowed. "Somewhere like this." My breath hitched. He must have realized what he said because his eyes widened slightly, but he didn't take it back. He didn't laugh it off or look away. He held my gaze, steady and honest. I didn't know what to do with that kind of truth. The door opened again, and a few drunk voices spilled out before stumbling back inside. Bennett sighed, rubbing his temples. "We should probably leave this balcony before someone else barges out," he said. "Want to go somewhere quieter, a walk maybe?" A walk, with Bennett, away from the crowd, the noise, the judgment. "Yes," I said before my brain could catch up. "I'd like that." He smiled, one of those rare, genuine smiles that made something warm curl in my chest. "Come on." We slipped through the party without anyone paying attention this time, like the chaos had already moved on to another distraction. The music felt muffled, blurry, like it belonged to another world entirely. When we stepped outside the house, the cool air kissed my skin, and I felt my lungs finally expand fully. "Where to?" I asked. He gestured toward the street. "There's a small park a few blocks down. Hardly anyone goes there at night. It's quiet." That word again, quiet, like it meant something sacred to him. We walked side by side down the dimly lit sidewalk. Our steps fell into an easy rhythm, as if we'd been walking together for years instead of minutes. The city buzzed faintly around us, but it felt far away. After a while, he asked, "Do you read a lot of romance?" I laughed. "Not really, just sometimes." "What sometimes?" I shrugged. "When I want to feel something, I guess." He hummed thoughtfully. "I don't read much, not because I don't want to, but I've never had someone show me where to start. Most of what I read for school never meant anything to me." I glanced at him. "Books can mean something if you let them. It depends what you're looking for." He shoved his hands into his pockets. "What about you? What are you looking for?" It was such a simple question, but it hit me harder than I expected. I looked down at the sidewalk, watching the cracked concrete glide beneath my feet. "Connection," I said quietly. "Something real. Something that doesn't make me feel like I'm too much or too little all the time." He slowed a step, like my words made him reconsider his pace. Or maybe himself. "That sounds lonely," he murmured. I didn't deny it. We reached the park a few minutes later. It wasn't big, just a cluster of trees, a few benches, a small playground with a single swing creaking in the breeze. The moonlight filtered through the leaves, painting everything in silver. "This okay?" he asked. "Perfect." We sat on the bench near the swing set. The wood was cool beneath us. The night was quiet except for the faint hum of the city in the distance. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The silence wasn't uncomfortable. It was another kind of conversation, one made of breaths and glances and the space between us. Then he said my name softly. "Emerson." "Yeah." "How long have you felt like tonight, like you're on the outside looking in?" I exhaled slowly. "Most of my life, I guess. I'm used to being overlooked. Or mocked. People think quiet means weak." He shook his head with a seriousness that sent a shiver through me. "You're not weak. You're thoughtful. You see things other people don't." I swallowed. "Why do you care so much?" "Because someone should," he said simply. I stared at him, at the messy strands of dark hair falling across his forehead, at the warmth in his eyes, at the sincerity in his voice. He wasn't saying it to make me feel better. He believed it. "Why me?" I whispered. He looked down at his hands again, then back at me. Because I see pieces of myself in you. Things I try to hide. Things I don't have the courage to say out loud. I blinked. You struggle with that too. He let out a humorless laugh. More than you know. Tell me. He hesitated, then leaned forward, elbows on his knees, eyes on the ground. People think I have everything figured out, that I'm confident, popular, perfect even. But it's all surface. They don't know I'm terrified of disappointing people. They don't know how exhausting it is to play a role all the time. They don't know I feel lonely even when the room is full. My chest tightened. Bennett. He shook his head. And they definitely don't know I feel things I don't know how to talk about. Things I'm scared to admit. Things that could change everything if I say them out loud. His voice trembled on that last word. I had never seen him like this. Open. Vulnerable. Human. It made my heart ache. You can tell me anything, I said gently. You don't have to hide with me. He lifted his head slowly, like it took effort, like he was revealing something sacred. That's what scares me, he whispered. I frowned. Why? Because I think if I start telling you things I don't tell anyone else, I'm not sure I'll want to stop. The world stilled. My breath caught. Bennett. He leaned back, looking up at the stars filtering through the branches. His voice was low, almost fragile. When I saw you tonight holding that book, trying to disappear into the corner, I wanted to talk to you. I've wanted to talk to you for weeks, but I kept convincing myself you wouldn't want someone like me near you. Someone like you, I repeated, stunned. He nodded. Someone who's spent most of his life pretending. I shook my head, heart pounding. You don't have to pretend with me. He looked at me, then really looked at me like I was something rare, precious. I know, that's why I'm here. The air felt thick, charged with something I didn't dare name yet. Can I ask you something, he said. Anything. Why did you bring a book to a party? I laughed softly, because I was scared. Of what? Of being invisible, or being seen. I wasn't sure which would hurt more. He inhaled slowly. I saw you. I swallowed. I know. He reached out hesitantly, as if testing the air, then let his hand rest on the bench just inches from mine. Not touching, just existing close enough for the space between our fingers to burn. I want to know you better, he said. His voice was quiet but sure, like it was the first honest thing he had allowed himself to say all night. I want that too, I whispered. The distance between us shrank, not physically but emotionally, until it felt like our breaths were sharing the same fragile space. So tell me something, he said, something you've never told anyone. My heart pounded. I closed my eyes for a moment, letting the night hold me steady. Okay. Here's something. I opened my eyes and met his gaze. Sometimes I feel like I'm waiting for my life to start, like I'm standing still while everyone else runs ahead. He nodded slowly. You're not alone in that. I feel that too, more than you know. I exhaled. And sometimes I think maybe I'm waiting for the wrong reasons, or the wrong people. He leaned in just slightly. And what about now? I didn't move away. Now I'm not waiting. Something heavy and electric shifted in the air between us. He watched me closely, like he was trying to read the pages of a book he wasn't sure he was allowed to open. And maybe I was the same. Maybe we were both stories waiting for someone brave enough to turn the first page. He whispered my name again. Emerson. Yeah. His voice lowered. Would it be crazy if I said I'm glad Blake stole your book tonight? I blinked. Yes, completely crazy. He smiled, slow and breathtaking. Because if he hadn't, I don't think you and I would be sitting here right now. I looked down at our hands still not touching, but so heartbreakingly close that the air between our fingers felt alive. Maybe, I said softly, it's the first good thing he's ever done. We both laughed quietly, the tension loosening just enough to breathe again. Bennett leaned back against the bench, eyes drifting to the stars. Do you believe in timing? He asked. Sometimes. He nodded. Me too, and I think tonight happened for a reason. What reason? He turned his head toward me, and the honesty in his expression stole the air from my lungs. To find you. My heart stumbled into something fragile and terrifying and beautiful. I opened my mouth to respond, but before anything could leave it, a sudden burst of voices erupted from down the street. A group of people from the party spilled out onto the sidewalk, laughing loudly, calling Bennett's name. He stiffened. I watched the warmth in his face flicker like a candle struggling against the wind. He swallowed hard. I should probably go check on them. They'll notice if I disappear too long. The words stung more than I expected. Oh, I said quietly, yeah, of course. He saw the shift in my expression. His face fell. Emerson, that's not what I meant. You don't have to explain, I whispered. He shook his head, frustration in his eyes. Yes, I do. You matter. This matters. I need a little more time. I'm trying to figure out how to stop being the person everyone expects and start being the person I want to be. I nodded, swallowing the ache. I understand. He looked relieved but still troubled. Can I see you again tomorrow maybe or soon? My chest tightened with something that felt dangerously close to hope. Yeah, I said. I'd like that. He stood slowly, hesitating like he didn't want to leave. I don't want to go back there. You don't have to, I said gently. But he shook his head. Not yet, not like this, but I promise I'm coming back to you. The words settled in the air between us like a vow. He took a slow step backward, eyes never leaving mine. Good night, Emerson. Good night, Bennett. He turned and walked toward the voices calling his name, and with each step he took, I felt the space between a stretch and pull and ache. But I also felt something else. Something warm. Something hopeful. Something real. Because tonight, for the first time in a very long time, I hadn't been invisible. And neither had he.